Hi everyone, it's Elizabeth here, and I wanted to answer the questions that several of you have asked about this cheap sketchbook that I'm using this year. Rather than put it into a blog post, I figured it'd be faster for me just to show you the sketchbook and the supplies I'm using. That will answer some of the questions that I've been asked. This is a plain black Artist Loft sketchbook that I picked up at Michael's. I believe I have the information. There we go. It's the Artist Loft sketchbook. Let's see if that'll focus. It's 110 sheets of 75-pound paper, and it's the size that most people are interested in as well. It's the 5.5 by 8 inches. That translates to 13.9 by 20.3 centimeters. Now, this one sells for $5 at Michael's. I picked it up with a 40% coupon, so it was even cheaper than $5. The paper is not great for wet media. I mean, it is essentially, right? 75-pound paper. It works really great if you are just using pen and ink, though. So, I'm pushing this journal past its comfort zone, so you can't blame the journal for it. The back has got the pen test. I'm not sure if that will come across, but almost everything bleeds through except for, my Lamy Safari with carbon ink. That one does not bleed through, but anything wet or more wet than that just bleeds all the way through. But I picked it up intending to use it for just pen and ink, and then there's something about blank paper that always seems to just not work for me. So what I decided to do was actually splash on some paints. I love this quote by Scott Adams: "Creativity is allowing yourself to make mistakes. Art is knowing which ones to keep." How great is that? Anyway, so what I do, and people have asked me this, is in this journal, which I will kind of do a flip through in a little bit, I have pages that are prepped, right? So what I do is I prep these pages, I set a timer if I'm trying to, get it done quickly for about 10-15 minutes, and I can prep a whole bunch of pages ahead of time. So the question has arisen, how do you prep these pages? Really, really simply. Let me just show you some of the supplies here. I have, first of all, I think this was an old candy container. Brilliant. So what I do is I use watercolors, and again, not the expensive kind. This is the Pro Art from Michael. Again, this kit, the entire set of these watercolors probably cost about $5, if that, right? So again, it's not great watercolor. It's not densely pigmented, but I don't care. I'm not using it for painting watercolor scenes. I essentially use it to create backgrounds. So there's many ways, and you can search on YouTube how to create backgrounds. All I do, this is the way it works for me, it's the simplest way when I'm just trying to put color down onto a page, is I take, in here is a whole bunch of bottles, okay? I basically take the watercolor, the tube watercolor, I open this up, I squeeze a dollop or two into these water bottles. I fill the rest with water, and then I shake it up, and you now have a little bit of watercolor spray in a spray bottle that works really well. So all I do is, I create these. I make these ahead of time. I squeeze them in, I add water, they're all sitting, and they need to be squished around a little bit to get the paint or the pigment, more spread evenly in the bottles. I open them up, I spray it down, I take a wet wipe, I smoosh it around the page just so that, so that's kind of all wet wipe smooshing. I used to use a brush. This paper doesn't take brushes. Let me just see if I can show you one. So one of these foam brushes is what I used to use, is to kind of squish it around with the foam brushes. But for some reason, this paper doesn't like that. So what I do is I use a wet wipe. I move the paint around a bit. And then I use a heat tool. In my case, it's a hair dryer. I dry it, I turn the page, and I do the next one. Okay, so like I said, you can create a whole bunch of backgrounds very, very quickly using this method. It doesn't cost a lot of money. Now the interesting thing I found is this paper actually deals better with paint on top of it. So for example, these pens will bleed through or shadow through on this blank piece of paper. But if I actually, let me just show you one of these. If I actually went ahead and put the paint down, I find that the bleed through is not as much. I'm not sure why that's the case. Maybe it creates a barrier so the paint doesn't come all the way through. But let's just go with that for right now. But anyway, I found that works really well. So that's what I do. I first start by going ahead and, adding paint to the pages. I've always got several pages prepped ahead of time. I use my plain, cheap watercolor tubes. This is about how many bottles I have. There's probably a dozen in here. I basically put them in here, add water, and I've got some spray bottles that are custom. Here's the key piece. This entire setup is incredibly cheap. Okay, so that's the key for me is when I have wonderful sketchbooks with wonderful paper, and which I do use, and I have beautiful paints, artist quality, highly pigmented, and it always feels like that's a waste of quality for what I'm trying to do here, which is take the preciousness out of everything. I want to be able to put something down on a page, flip it over, do something else, flip it over, and not worry about it. Okay, so that's essentially all the tools that I've used to create these background pages. Now, what I'm going to do is do a flip, but I think I'm already at 7 minutes. So what I'll do is I'll make this into multiple parts. I'll do a flip of the journal so far so you can kind of see, what's in here. I usually do a flip that doesn't have any voiceover, but I'm going to try and see if I can answer some of the questions that I've been getting on these videos or on my Instagram account about some of the art in this book, and we'll take it from there. So thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And if you would like to see the video of the flip throughs, please subscribe, like the video, let me know if you have any questions, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks, bye.